It's wonderful when a project starts to come together, and that's exactly what we're going to see in this week's episode of the Shed Bench. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, welcome to the Jam Shed, and as I said in the intro, this week's episode of the Shed Bench is the continuation of the project that I've been working on, which is resurrecting this made in Mexico Fender body and bringing it back into service. And we left off last week with me loading the pickguard into the body, and we were waiting on parts, and they did arrive just yesterday, which was Friday, and I'm filming this today, Saturday. Hopefully this video comes out here shortly. And the neck came, the tuners came, and just for full disclosure, I pre-drilled the neck and the holes on the back of the neck and then loaded the tuners on here, as you'll see in the image here. Here's the guitar on the bench. And I wanted to just keep this streamlined for today because we're going to mate the neck to the body, and this project will be coming together quite quickly. The hope for today was a quick check-in to say, here's where the project is at and here's where we're headed, and I'm looking forward to getting this thing going. So without any further delay, let's get into what we're going to do. So essentially, as I said, we're going to mate the neck to the body, and I'm going to take you through that process. It'll be quite quick. And before I get started with that, I want to get situated. So give me just a second, and I'll be right back. So we're set. We have all the tools on the bench, everything ready to go to make this project come to fruition, at least for this phase of it. So the things that we're missing still on the parts list is I've got to get some string trees. Let's bring the neck up here into the main shot. So here's the neck. As I said, I took care of getting this pre-drilled and ready for the body to be able to accept the neck and that we wouldn't have any issues. I just wanted to make sure that fitment was good, and I didn't want to have that labored here on camera. Here's a shot of these Geiker locking tuners. They were reasonable. Think 30 bucks. The neck itself was really inexpensive as far as these things go. It was $50 on Amazon, and that's a 2025 price. Really reasonable, and the neck itself is quite nice. It's well done. One of the things I thought was interesting is if you look here where the fret ends touch the fretboard, there's a little bit of space there. So I'll be curious to see how all of this comes together, because typically the fret ends go all the way to the end, but in this case they stop short of the end of the wood side of the fretboard. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. The truss rod nut the truss rod is in there. I've seen some of these reviews where like you should probably have a truss rod just in case, but it needs to be clean. So I won't be doing that here. I'll do that outside of the video time. But overall, fit and finish is pretty good. The fret ends, some spots are a little spiky, but for 50 bucks, at least at first glance, it seems pretty good. We won't know how great this is until we get some string tension on it and then get it set up and see how it all really feels, and whether or not there are some high frets and all the rest of it. But for today, we're not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to get this connected to the body, and the body's here in the screenshot. But what we will do is I'll likely do this sitting right here, and you'll see this in real time as we get it mated, because this will probably be an easier angle. So let's do that now. We're going to pull the body and take a look at it. So as you can see right here, I have the plate all ready to go. This is typically, if I'm pulling a neck, this is what I like to do, especially on the USA bodies. Sometimes you have the truss rod adjustment in the bottom, which is very interesting. That jog wheel thing, innovation, was an awesome way to do it for some of those GNLs that have that. I love that feature. I think that's a great way to keep things lower, and then you don't have the hole at the top here. But it really matters not. I just want a functional truss rod at the end of the day. But with the USA made and maybe some other versions of these Fender guitars, there is like a tilt screw that there would be like a little, right where this hole is, there would be like a T-nut and with a little adjustment, so you could kind of tilt this back and work with the telemetry a little bit about how it's pulling, if it needs that adjustment. Sometimes most of the time, old school ways, you shim it out and you get that right angle. Hopefully we won't have to do any of that today. Maybe I'll be lucky and won't have to shim anything, but we won't know until we get strings on it. So without more delay and more talking, let's get this thing mated. So I've already have this kind of set at the back. As I was saying, the easiest way from my perspective is to hold it like this in your lap, secure it, and then I just start finger tightening this so that it's not much effort. And if you have done this before, have not done it before, this is a great way from my perspective to approach it, because it just ensures that the fitment is good. You're not drilling new holes into the neck that you parted ways with your hard-earned cash to purchase. And so as you can see, it's on there. It's not going anywhere. I can let this go now. And then the next thing I do is I grab my old Bosch pocket driver. I have it set to 3 on the dial. That's when the hammering engages. It's very light. It won't strip out the strings. And then we just go for it. And the reason why I do this very slowly is because it'll allow, and I don't tighten all the way to start. These plates have a little bit of flexibility and they might want to rest differently for each position. So try not to over tighten it. The actual tightening for me will always happen by hand, because then I can certainly for sure know where we land on how tight it should be. And so that's what I'm doing now. So I've already done, whoops, the drill, and there we go. And that these do not need to be, again, same thing like what we talked about with pickguard. Hulk tightening is not necessary. You don't have to go gonzo on the tightening to make sure that it's going to be secure, especially if you've just drilled these out. And you want to make sure that you're just being very cognizant. And I'm not tightening this much at all. I would say maybe 2 little notches past finger tight, because once you get to finger tight, that's pretty much right where it needs to be. And so there we are. The guitar is looking good. So it'd be fun to do a little, just little shot of what this is looking like. So there it is. And we'll bring it down, and perfect. And then on the back, I didn't really show this in the last video, but you can see this thing has so many cool battle scars. And you know, someone who originally had this had some ideas about how far they want to go. I think that's what I call the ring of death. You realize how many deep coats this thing has, and which is beautiful about some of these non-light nitrocellulose finished guitars, because they have a huge thick layer of poly coat on there that just makes these things, like, I wouldn't say indestructible, because clearly this was not indestructible, but they can take some hits and you really can bring their finish back nicely. And this has been wiped down, and that's how it looks. I think it's starting to turn into a really nice looking axe, and I'm really excited to hear these pickups. It's been a minute since I've listened to them. I've had another guitar with Highway 1s loaded into it as well, and so, but these ones do sound different than that one, so I'm very excited to hear how this is all going to shape out. But we are now another step closer. In our next video, I will have what we're going to do up here on the headstock, which I'm really excited about because it's really specific to the channel, so that will be fun. And then it's missing string trees. We'll get it strung up, and I'll have it set up prior to the video. I will make sure I go through it so that we're not laboring anything weird or odd. It will get set up prior, but this thing should be ready to go in our next video. And it might be a minute because the decals that I got are coming from out of the country, so it might take a good 20 or 30 days. So it'll be a minute before we have another update on this for the shed bench, but there's a couple other projects I'm working on, and I look forward to sharing them with you. So that is our time for today. I hope you enjoyed this update on this made in Mexico Partscaster, because that's what they're aptly known as when you start putting them together and it's just amalgamation of parts. We call those Partscasters, and so that's where we are. We're one step closer. Now this thing can rest on a stand and is not getting kicked by me, because it used to sit down by my feet, and where the bench is here, and we're getting closer to bringing a guitar back online, and it didn't cost all that much money to do it. So while $80 is still could be considered a lot of money for what you're getting out of this, repurposing and not having something just sitting and being stagnant and going back into service, I think it's well worth the investment. I hope you enjoyed our time today. Thank you for joining in on this episode of The Shed Bench, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care, everybody.